I was brushing my teeth before bed when I noticed something strange in the mirror. My reflection wasn't brushing its teeth anymore. I just moved into this new apartment, nothing fancy, just a rundown one-bedroom with stained carpets and the kind of yellow lighting that made everything look like an old photograph. The place was cheap, and I was desperate. Between rent bills and trying to keep my job at the call center, I didn't have much choice. It was the third night living there when I first noticed something off about the bathroom mirror. Now, this wasn't a haunted house. No tragic history. No old man warning me to stay away. But that mirror? It gave me the creeps from day one. Not because of how it looked, it was a basic medicine cabinet bolted to the wall, but because of how it felt. Like it watched. I figured I was just being paranoid. Sleep-deprived, stressed, whatever. But then came the night I really saw it. I just finished a double shift and was dead on my feet. The bathroom light buzzed as I stood there brushing my teeth, barely able to keep my eyes open. And then I noticed something. My reflection wasn't brushing its teeth. It just stood there, staring at me. I froze. Toothbrush still in my mouth. I squinted at the glass, trying to make sense of it. The hand in the mirror? It was still. My eyes in the mirror? Too wide. Too focused. I slowly moved my right arm. The reflection didn't. I swear to God, it blinked out of sync. I dropped the toothbrush right there in the sink and stumbled backward, hard jackhammering in my chest. The mirror version of me smiled. Not a normal smile. It was slow. Deliberate. Like it had been waiting for me to notice. And just like that, it moved again. In perfect sync. My reflection was back to normal, brushing its teeth like nothing had happened. I stood there for a long time, staring. I even tried waving, doing quick little hand gestures. Everything matched again. Whatever had happened, it was gone. Or pretending to be. I didn't sleep that night. Not a wink. The next day, I pulled the mirror off the wall. There was nothing behind it. Just a flat, damp patch of drywall and a few cobwebs. I checked for hidden cameras, weird wiring, nothing. But when I turned the mirror around and looked at the back, I saw a single handprint. It was faint, greasy, like someone had pressed their palm flat against the glass. But it wasn't my hand size. It was smaller. Child-sized. That was when things started escalating. I started seeing movement in the mirror when I wasn't looking directly at it. Flickers of motion out the corner of my eye, someone stepping out of frame just as I turned to look. Lights flickering. Doors creaking open in the middle of the night. Once, I caught my reflection whispering. I couldn't hear it, my earbuds were in, but its lips were moving, forming words I didn't understand. I unplugged everything. Covered the mirror with a towel. Taped it up even. But the next morning, the towel was on the floor. And the mirror was clean. Cleaner than it had ever been. No streaks, no smudges. Just shining like it had been freshly polished. With that same damn handprint in the center. One night, I think it was a Thursday, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when I heard it. A whisper. It came from the bathroom. Soft. Urgent. Almost like it was calling me by name. I tried to ignore it at first. Pulled the covers over my head. But the whisper kept coming. Closer. Until I heard it right beside my bed. I shot up, flicked on the lamp. Nothing. Just the quiet hum of my shitty heater and my own pulse roaring in my ears. I turned slowly toward the bathroom. The mirror light was on. I hadn't touched it. I walked over, bare feet sticking to the cold linoleum floor, and I swear, I was shaking. My breath fogged up the glass as I leaned in. And that's when my reflection spoke. Its mouth moved, but mine didn't. It said my name. Not out loud, but I heard it. Inside my head. Then it smiled again. Only this time, I noticed something else. Its eyes weren't mine. They were too dark. Too deep. Like someone else was behind them. Watching. Waiting. I left that apartment the next morning. Didn't even pack most of my stuff. Just took the essentials and drove 3 towns over to crash with a friend. I never went back. But here's the thing that still haunts me, something I can't explain. Every mirror I look into now, just for a split second, I see it watching me. And sometimes, it still smiles. You think mirrors are harmless, right? Just glass and reflection. But next time you're brushing your teeth, ask yourself, is your reflection really doing the same thing? Or are they just pretending, until you're too tired to notice? I picked up a strange radio at a yard sale, and the voices coming through it started talking about things no one should know. It started on a Saturday afternoon. I was killing time, hitting yard sales across town, something I do more out of boredom than actual interest. Just cheap junk and the occasional old book or lamp. But this time, tucked between a box of tangled chargers and some broken VHS tapes, I saw it. A small black radio. Dusty. Analog dials. Heavy for its size. The brand name was half faded, scratched off like someone had tried to erase it completely. I don't know why I picked it up. It just had this weird pull, like I'd seen it before, even though I knew I hadn't. The guy running the sale barely looked up when I asked how much. $3, he muttered, then added, "You'll bring it back." I thought he was joking. Just trying to be spooky. So I laughed. He didn't. That night, I cleaned the thing up and plugged it in. No Bluetooth. No USB. Just a telescoping antenna and a chunky frequency dial. I turned it on and was instantly hit with a loud crackle of static. Nothing but white noise, no matter where I tuned it. Until around 3 a.m. I was half asleep on the couch when the static suddenly shifted. Became rhythmic. Like breathing. Then, without warning, a voice cut through. Faint. Warped. Like it was struggling to come through. "You're not alone, behind you." I jumped. Whipped around. Nothing. Just my quiet living room, bathed in the glow of the TV screen saver. But the radio? Still on. Still whispering. "You shouldn't have brought it home." I ripped the plug out of the wall and tossed it across the room. I figured maybe I'd picked up some weird broadcast or a prank signal, pirate radio or something. Hell, I even told myself it might have been picking up someone else's baby monitor. But the next night? It came back on by itself. Still unplugged. Still across the room. Just on. I brought it into work the next day. I work at a 24-hour front desk in a low-traffic hotel, and I figured it'd be harmless to mess with it during the slow hours. Around 2:40 a.m., the radio lit up again. This time, there was music playing. Slow, warbly jazz, like it was melting. And under the music, a voice. Low. Calm. Like a bedtime story. "The man in room 203 will die at 3:06 a.m. I froze. That room was booked. I checked the system, Mr. Kelman. Old guy. In town for a funeral. I stared at the clock, hard hammering. 3:06 came and went. Nothing. No screams. No alarms. I told myself it was a coincidence. Static nonsense. Creepy but meaningless. The next morning, I found out Mr. Kelman had died in his sleep. The paramedics said it looked peaceful, like his heart had just stopped. At exactly 3:06. After that, I stopped trying to explain it. The radio knew things. Sometimes it just muttered nonsense. Sometimes it told me where to look for things I'd lost. My keys, a missing receipt, once even my cat. It said, "Check the dryer." She was curled up inside, asleep. But other times? It talked about people I didn't know. "He's watching her sleep. Room 109. She has no idea her brakes were cut. He buried it 6 feet deep. No one will find her." It didn't always give names. But when it did, I'd Google them. And what I found scared the hell out of me. Accidents. Obituaries. Unsolved disappearances. All of it real. All of it after the radio spoke. I tried giving it away. Left it at a thrift shop across town. The next morning? It was back on my kitchen table. Still dusty. Still warm. I didn't bring it in. The doors were locked. One night I asked it a question. I don't know why. I was tired. Shaken. Curious. I whispered. "Who are you?" The static flared. The light on the dial flickered. Then it said very clearly, "We are the signal. And now you are too." The last time it spoke to me, it gave me a time. Tonight. 3:33 a.m. Answer the knock. I didn't sleep. I waited, clutching a bat in my lap, watching the front door. 3:33 came. And there was a knock. 3 slow raps. Just like it said. I didn't move. Then I heard it again, this time from behind me. Knock. 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 I turned. There was no door behind me. Just the window. And something on the other side of the glass, watching. I've stopped turning the radio on. Doesn't matter. It still whispers sometimes. When I walk by. When I try to sleep. And sometimes I catch myself whispering back. Next time you're driving at night, flip your dial to a dead channel. Just for a second. You might hear it. The signal. It's out there. Always watching. Always listening. I was doing security patrols at a storage facility when I heard screaming coming from one of the locked units. But that wasn't the worst part. I used to work nights at this self-storage place out near the edge of town. One of those big sprawling facilities with rows of metal roll-up doors and flickering floodlights. It wasn't glamorous, but it was easy money, just walking the grounds, checking locks, and staying awake. The place closed to customers at 10 p.m., and after that, it was just me and the raccoons. No cameras in most areas, just a few motion sensors near the front gate. Which meant that for most of my shifts, I was completely alone. Or at least, I was supposed to be. It was a little after 2 a.m. when I heard it. A scream. Muffled, but unmistakable, raw, panicked. It came from somewhere near the center of the property. I froze. The layout of the place was like a grid, row after row of units, all numbered, all identical. There were maybe 300 total. Most people didn't visit often. Some hadn't opened their units in years. I followed the sound, flashlight cutting through the darkness. The scream came again, louder this time. I started jogging. It stopped just as I turned the corner onto Road D. And that's when I saw it. Unit 14B. Its lock was missing. The latch hung slightly open. But here's the thing, when I did rounds earlier, I checked that lock. I remember because it was one of those chunky yellow ones you only see on storage units. Now it was gone. I approached slowly. The door was shut but not latched. I stood there for a few seconds, just listening. Silence. Then something slammed hard against the inside of the door. Bang. I jumped back, nearly dropped my flashlight. Then the screaming started again. It sounded like a woman. Desperate, broken. Like she was pleading. "Please! Let me out! Please! Oh my God! He's coming back!" My stomach twisted. I fumbled for my radio, calling dispatch. "This is Site 14, possible break-in. Unit 14B. I'm hearing a woman inside, requesting police immediately." The voice on the other end crackled. "Copy that. Officers en route." I stepped back, trying to keep calm. I wasn't armed. I wasn't trained for this. All I could do was wait. But then the screaming stopped again. Dead silence. I edged closer to the door and gently lifted it just a couple of inches, just enough to peek inside. It was pitch black. My flashlight barely lit anything past the entrance. And then, movement. A figure rushed toward the door from the darkness, fast. I slammed it shut and fell backward. But it never hit the door. Just vanished. When the cops arrived, I told them everything. They brought bolt cutters, unlatched the door, and slowly rolled it open. Empty. No one inside. No furniture, no trash, not even dust. Just a concrete floor and cold air. I walked in with them. Checked every corner. Nothing. One officer turned to me, skeptical. You sure this was the right unit? I nodded. 14B, I saw it. I heard her. He frowned, then pointed to the lock latch. There was no damage. No sign of it ever being removed. Just a pristine padlock hanging right there, locked tight. I didn't understand. I know it wasn't there. The officer shrugged. Sometimes late shifts can mess with your head. I didn't go back to Road D for a week. But I kept thinking about it. So a few nights later, I took my flashlight and walked back to Unit 14B. Just to check. As I turned the corner, I stopped cold. The door was cracked open again. And this time? There was a red handprint smeared on the outside. Low to the ground. Like someone had been dragging themselves out. I reported it. Again. And once more, the cops found nothing. No prints. No one nearby. The handprint was gone by morning. But the next night, I found something else, wedged under the edge of the unit. A photo. Old Polaroid style. It showed a girl, early 20s maybe. Dirty face. Blank eyes. Tied to a chair inside what looked like a storage unit. In the corner of the photo? Scrawled in red marker. 14B, she's still here. I quit 2 days later. The company called, begged me to come back. Said they reviewed the gate logs, the sensor logs, and nothing out of the ordinary was recorded. They even said Unit 14B had never been rented. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. And sometimes, late at night, my phone buzzes with blocked calls. When I answer, it's always the same voice. Soft. Desperate. Please, let me out, he's coming back. Some storage units don't hold furniture. Some hold secrets. And some hold something that should have never been locked away in the first place. They hired me to watch over the cemetery from dusk till dawn. What they didn't tell me is that something else watches too. I'd been out of work for a while when I saw the ad. Graveyard caretaker needed. Overnight security. No interaction with public. No heavy labor. $28 per hour, cash. No interview. Just a phone call and a quick tour of the place. The guy who met me there barely said a word, just pointed out where the tools were, gave me the shed keys, and told me one thing. Never leave the gates open after midnight. I laughed, thinking it was some old superstition. But his face didn't move. He just stared at me. Even if someone asks you to. Kilmer Cemetery was old. Real old. Some of the headstones were worn down to nubs, the names long since erased by time. The whole place sat on a hill, just outside a forgotten little town. No street lights. No houses nearby. Just trees. And silence. I'd park just inside the gate each night, lock up behind me, and do a round or two with my flashlight. Then I'd sit in the shed with my thermos, and try not to think about how alone I was. But around my third week, things started getting strange. It started with the bells. There were a few grave markers near the far edge of the cemetery that had old-fashioned bells installed. Those safety coffins people used back in the day in case someone got buried alive. Most were rusted, broken, or missing ropes. But one night around 2 a.m., I heard one of them ring. Just one, soft chime. Like it had been gently tugged. I walked out with my flashlight, sweeping over the frost-covered grass. Nothing moved. No wind. No animals. Just cold stillness. I found the grave with the bell. Sure enough, the rope had been freshly cut, not frayed. Sliced. The next night, the shed door was open when I arrived. Wide open, even though I'd locked it myself before leaving. Nothing stolen. Nothing disturbed. Just open. There were muddy footprints inside. Bare feet. Leading in, but not leading out. I kept my head down, figured maybe someone was messing with me. Locals playing a joke. Teenagers with too much time. But deep down, I knew better. There weren't any towns nearby. No signs of other people. And I'd stopped seeing animals too. No birds. No bugs. Just dead quiet. Like the land itself had gone still. Then came the figure. It started standing at the edge of the woods. I'd see it from the shed, just a dark silhouette between the trees. No movement. No sound. Just watching. One night I shouted out, "Who's out there?" It didn't flinch. Didn't budge. Just stood there, half hidden in shadow, until the sun came up. I stopped sleeping altogether after that. One night, I heard something knock on the gate. 3 slow, heavy knocks. I stood frozen in the dark shed, holding my flashlight like a weapon. Then a voice. "You left the gate open." I knew I hadn't. I always checked. "Let me in." The voice was low. Male. Calm. I stepped out of the shed, flashlight trembling in my hand, and walked the gravel path toward the entrance. The gate was still shut. Still locked. No one there. But the chain was gone. Like it had been removed from the inside. I went back to the shed and called the guy who hired me. First time I ever heard his voicemail kick in. I left a message. Just said, "I think something's inside the cemetery now." He never called back. The final night I worked there, it snowed. Thin powder over every surface. Untouched. Pure. Until I stepped outside and saw the footprints. Dozens of them. Bare feet. Circling the shed. Some small, some wide. Some twisted, like the bones inside weren't quite right. All of them fresh. And all leading back to one place, a single grave. No name on the marker. Just a rusted bell on a crooked pole. The same one from before. The bell started to ring. Not softly this time. Frantically. Violently. I ran. I don't even remember getting in the truck. Just slamming the gas and tearing down the hill, praying I didn't crash into a tree. I never went back. Didn't even pick up my final check. But sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I still hear it. The bell. Just one soft chime. Like something under the earth is still waiting. Still listening. Still remembering that I was the last one to leave the gate open. We bury the dead for a reason. But some places, some things, they were never meant to be sealed. Because when they're done waiting, they ring the bell. I was on a road trip when I took a wrong turn and found myself on a street that didn't exist on any map. The house at the end? It already knew who I was. Last October, I took a solo road trip through the Midwest. No real plan, just me, a beat-up Civic, and a week off work. I needed a break. No texts, no emails, just long stretches of empty road and gas station coffee. The first few days were perfect. Quiet backroads, strange little diners, motels that smelled like old carpet and cigarette ghosts. It was exactly what I needed. Until the night I turned off the highway near a town called Maple Hollow. Never heard of it before. Still can't find it online. It was getting dark, and I'd been driving too long without a break. GPS said there was a rest stop about 20 minutes off the main route, so I took the exit. I followed a narrow, 2-lane road that curved through thick woods. No signs. No lights. Just trees closing in on both sides like they wanted to swallow the road whole. After a few miles, I hit a fork. The GPS froze. Just glitched out and stopped updating. I waited, but it stayed frozen. Then the screen flickered and rebooted. Just static. I took the left fork, figuring I'd loop back if it didn't lead anywhere. That was my first mistake. The road narrowed even more. Cracks in the pavement. No shoulder. Just dirt and broken branches creeping in. Then I saw a street sign. Holloway Lane. Didn't show up on any map. No GPS signal. But the name felt familiar. Like I'd heard it before in a dream. The houses here were different. Old, crooked. Some looked abandoned, others just wrong, like they were trying to look normal but didn't know how. At the very end of the lane, I saw one house with the porch light still on. Yellow glow. Flickering, like a candle behind glass. And for some reason, I pulled over. As soon as I stepped out, I felt it. The silence. Not normal rural quiet. This was suffocating. No insects. No rustling. Not even wind. Just stillness. I walked up the porch steps. They didn't creak. The front door was already cracked open. My gut told me to leave. But something else, a pull, maybe, kept me moving. I knocked softly. No answer. Then I heard it. A voice, faint, from inside. "Come in, Evan." I froze. I never told anyone in this town my name. I hadn't spoken it since I left the gas station hours ago. But that voice knew me. I stepped inside. It smelled like thyme, dust, mold, and something faintly sweet, like rotting flowers. The hallway stretched long and narrow, lit only by a single light bulb swaying gently from the ceiling, even though there was no draft. Pictures lined the walls, black and white, all of them blurry. But when I looked closer, I realized they weren't just old photos. They were of me. Some were from childhood. One of me at a school play. Another, older, me sleeping on my couch last year. Photos I'd never taken. Moments no one else should have captured. That's when I heard the floorboards creak upstairs. Followed by another voice, this one deeper, whispering. "You came back late this time." The bulb overhead flickered violently. The pictures along the walls shook, just slightly. I turned to leave. But the front door? Gone. There was just a wall now. No doorknob. No seams. Just wood paneling where the exit had been. That's when I knew. The house hadn't let me in. It had pulled me inside. I stood frozen in that hallway, heart pounding so hard it felt like it echoed through the floor. Behind me, the wall where the front door had been was solid. Cold to the touch. Like it had always been that way. I took a shaky step backward, and that's when I heard it again. Footsteps. Upstairs. Slow, deliberate. Then the creak of something heavy, shifting across the floor above me. I backed into the kitchen, just needing somewhere to hide, or think, or breathe. That's when I saw the table. Laid out with photos. Dozens. All recent. All of me. Me stopping at a rest stop. Me buying coffee that morning. Me sleeping in my car 2 nights ago. One of them was dated tomorrow. It showed me standing right here, in this kitchen, eyes wide, mouth open, just like I was now. And behind me? A figure. I spun around. Nothing. But the light in the hallway had gone out. I ran. Pushed through the first door I found and ended up in the basement stairwell. Pitch black. I didn't care. I ran anyway, feet thudding down the steps, skipping 2 at a time. The air down there was colder. Heavier. It clung to my skin. My phone light barely worked, it flickered like it was dying. But I could still see. Shelves. Lined with jars. Jars full of teeth. Hair. Eyeballs. And something worse, scraps of paper, each with names scribbled in frantic, almost childlike handwriting. Some were scratched out violently. Others were repeated over and over again. Mine was on the newest one. Not once. 17 times. I turned to run, but someone was standing at the bottom of the stairs. I didn't hear them come down. Didn't hear them breathe. They just appeared. I couldn't make out a face. Just an outline, tall still. Too still. Then the voice came again. But this time, it wasn't from the figure. It came from all around me. It only hurts the first night. I don't remember how I got out. I remember slamming through a window, cutting my hands, tearing my jacket. I remember running through the woods, barefoot, bleeding, branches slicing at my legs. I didn't stop until I hit pavement. Then I flagged down a car. The driver didn't ask questions. Maybe they saw the look on my face. Maybe they'd seen it before. I tried to report it. The sheriff looked me dead in the eyes and said, "There's no hallway lane in this county, son." I drove back the next day, just to prove I wasn't losing it. Found the same turnoff. But where the road had been, just a dead-end trail overgrown with weeds. Nothing beyond it. No sign of any street. No sign of any house. But here's the part that keeps me up at night. Worse than the voices, worse than the photos. Sometimes I still hear knocking at my door. 3 soft taps. Always around 3 a.m. And once, I opened the door. No one was there. Just a single photograph sitting on the mat. A new one. Of me. Standing in my hallway. Sleeping. Mouth open. And right behind me. The figure. Some places don't need maps to find you. They already know your name. And they don't care how far you run. Because once you step inside, part of you never leaves. I rented a remote cabin for a weekend getaway, but the woman in the hallway wasn't one of us, and she definitely wasn't in any of the booking records. I booked the place for the weekend. For friends, 1 big cabin, and no signal, exactly what we needed. The listing looked perfect. Cozy, rustic, tucked away in the hills. Real fireplace, hiking trails, even a wraparound porch. It had 5 stars, and the owner replied fast. We all arrived Friday evening just after dark. Took one wrong turn, but eventually found the narrow gravel drive and pulled up to a tall wooden house surrounded by pine trees. Nothing around for miles. Just the wind, the smell of rain, and the sound of our tires crunching the gravel. The key was in a lockbox, just like the listing said. We let ourselves in and started settling down. The place was exactly like the photos, too good to be true, honestly. That should have been the first red flag. The weekend started great. We made dinner, cracked some beers, put on music. By midnight we were half drunk and sprawled around the fireplace swapping dumb stories. It was around 2 a.m. when I thought I saw something. I was sitting on the couch, facing the hallway, when someone walked past the open bedroom door. Just a blur, a woman in white, hair down to her waist. I thought it was Maya, my girlfriend, heading to the bathroom. So when she walked back into the room behind me 30 seconds later, holding a blanket and looking very much not like she just left, I felt my stomach clench. "Hey," I said. "Weren't you just down the hall?" She gave me a look. "No. I've been in the kitchen this whole time." I didn't say anything after that. Just shrugged it off. Probably tired. Probably imagining things. Right. The next morning, I checked the Nest camera over the front porch. The owner said it was only for check-ins. But I had this weird feeling in my gut I couldn't shake. I opened the footage from last night. Around 2:03 a.m., the camera glitched, just for a second. And in that split second, there was a second face in the doorway, right behind us as we entered the cabin. A pale face. Smiling. Later that afternoon, Alex went upstairs to grab his phone. When he came back down, he looked off. "Hey," he said. "Did one of you go through my backpack?" We all shook our heads. He pulled out his phone and showed us something. A new photo. Taken just an hour ago. It was blurry, but it showed his backpack, lying open on the bed. Taken from above. Like someone had stood over it, holding his phone. And in the corner of the photo? A reflection. In the mirror. A woman. Standing in the hallway. Long black hair. Pale skin. No face. We didn't sleep well that night. We locked every door. Checked the closets. Opened every drawer. Found nothing. But still, around 3:30 a.m., we heard footsteps on the stairs. Slow. Careful. Like whoever it was didn't want to wake us up. I sat in bed, holding my breath. Then I heard the whisper, faint, coming from the other side of the wall. "You left the door open." I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I just waited until the sun came up. I'll continue with part 2, the woman in room 6, where things spiral into full-on terror, and a truth none of them saw coming. Let me know if you're ready. By Sunday morning, no one was talking much. We were all tense, sleep-deprived, pretending everything was fine. No one mentioned the photo. Or the voice. Or the fact that all 4 of us had heard someone breathing behind our bedroom doors the night before. We planned to pack up and leave early, just to get out before dark. But Maya, who hadn't said much since last night, wandered upstairs before we could load the cars. After about 10 minutes, she didn't come back down. I called up to her. No answer. I found her standing at the end of the upstairs hallway, just staring at a closed door. It wasn't one of ours. This door hadn't been there before. I know that sounds impossible, but I know that hallway. There had only been 3 doors, our rooms and the bathroom. But now there was a 4th. Faded wood. Brass knob. No markings. Maya turned to me, her eyes glassy. Didn't we wonder why the listing said 6 rooms? I froze. I pulled out my phone, went to the original booking page. 6 bedrooms. Sleeps 10. But we'd only ever seen 4 rooms, including the master and the office. We just assumed the listing had been wrong. But this door wasn't new. It was old. The wood around it didn't match the rest of the house. The paint was flaking in strips. It looked like it had been there before the cabin was even renovated. We stood there for a long time. Then the door handle turned. We ran downstairs. Grabbed our bags. Bolted out to the cars. That's when we realized Alex's keys were missing. He swore they were in his coat. We tore the cabin apart, pantry, fireplace, under furniture. No keys. Maya went to check the kitchen drawers. I heard her gasp. She came back holding a sheet of yellowed paper. Old. Cracked. Looked like it had been folded 1,000 times. It had handwriting on it. Faded. A list of names. 8 of them. All crossed out except one. Alex's name. We didn't say a word. Just grabbed our stuff and drove off in my car. Left his behind. We figured we could come back with someone later, maybe the cops. But when we hit the main road, we realized something else. The GPS wasn't working. Every road we tried to take either looped back or led into woods or dead ends. It was like the cabin didn't want to let us leave. That's when we saw the woman. Standing in the middle of the road. Hair like oil slicks. Skin gray and sagging like wet paper. Her arms hung stiff at her sides. Her dress was the same one I'd seen in the hallway on that first night. I swerved. Hit the brakes. When we looked back, she was gone. But the back seat door was slightly ajar. We made it out eventually. Or we think we did. But sometimes I wonder. See, the day after we got home, I went back to check the Airbnb listing. It was gone. Completely erased. Not just unlisted, deleted. No trace of the cabin, no host profile, nothing. I even called the company. They said no such property had ever existed under my account. I gave them the address we'd used for the GPS. They looked it up. That road doesn't exist. No cabin. No records. Nothing. Alex never got his keys back. But 3 nights later, he sent a photo to the group chat. No caption. Just a picture of his front door. Someone had slipped something under it. The same yellowed piece of paper. And now? His name was crossed out. You ever book a remote getaway? Make sure all the rooms are accounted for. Check every door. Count every guest. Because sometimes, someone else is already staying there. I was remodeling a house I just bought when I found a sealed crawlspace in the wall. Inside was a mattress, and a girl's diary. I bought the house last summer. Not a dream home or anything, just a cheap fixer-upper on the outskirts of town. Peeling paint, bad wiring, a busted porch, but I figured I could handle it. I'd flipped one house before. Thought I knew what I was doing. I didn't. From the start, this place felt weird. Not haunted, not cursed. Just wrong in a way I couldn't explain. The air was too still. The rooms never quite warmed up, even with the heat blasting. And at night, it creaked constantly, like it was breathing. Still, I kept working. Tore out carpet. Ripped down drywall. Filled dumpsters with moldy insulation and busted paneling. And then, behind a wall in the upstairs hallway, I found it. A false panel. No studs. No pipes. Just a sealed square of drywall that didn't belong. I tapped on it. hollow. So I cut it open. Behind it was a crawl space. Maybe 5 feet deep, 3 feet high. Dusty. Stale. Smelled like rust and mildew. But someone had been living in there. There was a stained mattress, yellowed, thin, molded to a body that had laid there a long time. A filthy blanket. Crumbs. A cracked plastic water bottle. And a small, spiral notebook. The first page had a name scribbled on it. Krista. If you find this, I'm sorry. The entry started out almost normal, teenage stuff. Boredom. Loneliness. Wishing for friends. But quickly it changed. The girl wrote about hearing things inside the walls. Scraping. Breathing. Sometimes whispers. She wrote about how her parents stopped letting her leave the house. How they locked her in the crawl space when she was bad. And then, how they stopped letting her out at all. I sat there on the hallway floor reading page after page, completely frozen. The last entry was dated March 14th, 2009. It said, "It's been 3 days since I heard anyone. I think they forgot about me. I keep hearing someone crawling outside the wall. But it's not them. It's not Mom. It's not Dad. It whispers my name like it already knows how I'll die." That was the final line. The rest of the pages were torn out. I called the police. They came. Took the notebook. Taped off the crawl space. Searched the whole house. Found nothing else. No remains. No records of anyone named Krista ever living there. No missing person report. Not even a trace of previous owners matching the names she mentioned. They told me I'd probably uncovered some elaborate hoax. Someone squatting. A prank. Maybe even a prop from a horror-themed Airbnb concept gone wrong. But I don't think it was fake. Because that night, while I was sleeping in my bedroom upstairs, I woke up around 2 a.m. to whispering. Coming from inside the walls. I pressed my ear to the plaster. There it was. A voice. Low. Croaking. Like it was crawling on the inside of its own throat. And it said one word. Krista. I moved out the next day. Didn't even finish the reno. Left half the house gutted. Let it go into foreclosure. But sometimes, in the dead quiet of night, I'll dream of that hallway. That soft scratching sound. That low whisper of something waiting in the dark. And I wake up to the same word in my ear. Not Krista. My name. You think no one's behind your walls. But you're wrong. Sometimes people aren't lost. They're just waiting. And sometimes, they weren't people to begin with.